And we're back for our last section of keywords and concepts from chapter 12. No, these are not in perfect order. I was just trying to keep them somewhat together and in a sense-making way. So I apologize if I popped around the textbook a little bit. But here we go. So we have some more stuff that we need to learn from this, more in the sexuality section. So the first word we have here is heteronormative. And this is the assumption that heterosexuality is the natural state of sexuality for a human being, right? So this is looking at a toddler boy and saying, oh, he's going to be quite the lady killer when he grows up. Well, he won't be if he turns out to be gay. But we automatically assume that all human beings are naturally straight unless they say otherwise. So that's a heteronormative, that's how that works. That's how that word would be applied. We also have on here homophobia. This is an extreme or irrational aversion to gay, lesbian, bisexual, or LGBTQ people, which often manifests in super unpleasant ways, prejudice, bias, just unpleasantness. Transphobia specifically applies to trans folks, so that's people that have that irrational fear of trans folks, which we'll be talking about this week. And then we're going into queer theory, actually. Queer theory is really neat and it helps people who aren't queer, which is amazing. Not many disciplines can say that. So it's an interdisciplinary approach to sexuality studies that identifies Western society's rigid splitting of gender into specific roles and questions the way that we have been taught to think about sexual orientation. They're trying to break heteronormative standards, right? So there's this idea that everybody's supposed to kind of pair off like Noah's Ark, right? We're all supposed to get a mate and settle down and have children, and that's normal. But it's not, right? It's not for everybody. That's not everybody's life path. Not everybody's going to take that direction. And queer theory is really looking at things and saying, hey, why do we think this? Why do we assume everybody's going to get married and have kids? Why do we assume most people are going to grow up to be straight? Why do we have a problem with this idea that people might not be either male or female? Why do we struggle so much with that? So that's the type of thing that queer theory is doing. And it's one of the reasons it's so interesting. And it really does help everyone. It really does. If you are a straight person who does not live the life that you're supposed to according to society, these people have you back, right? They're trying to say it's okay. It's okay not to live your life the exact same way as everybody else. So that's our stuff on queer theory here. I believe we have one more. Let's take a look here. Yes, we do. So these are just some concepts. I believe they were earlier in the chapter, but like I said, I was just trying to keep everything tight here. So the first thing we need to know is the concept of a double standard. Most of the ladies in the class have probably experienced this. They don't need to learn. And so have the fellas too, just other ways. This is an action that is considered acceptable for one sex but not the other. So this is an idea like a 17-year-old boy comes home, tells his parents or his dad that he had sex for the first time, right? He gets a high five. 17-year-old girl comes home and asks for birth control. She gets grounded, right? Why? This is it's the same age, right? In theory, we should be saying the same thing to both people, but we don't, right? We have different standards for girls than we do for boys. So that's the concept of a double standard. We also have here the motherhood penalty. This is the idea that the qualities which make a good mother make for a poor employee. So basically, if you're focused on your kids, you're not going to be focused on your work. This is also incredibly impacted by the fact that we don't have parental leave or subsidized childcare. It really contributes to the wage gap. Fun fact, the inverse is true for men. So they're actually deemed more qualified for jobs if they're fathers than if women are mothers, which is interesting. And I also have a fun fact in here. Single childless women have slightly better job opportunities than single childless men. So do with that what you will. I'm not quite sure on that one. It's just kind of weird. I think the idea being that children make men more responsible, like they're going to be irresponsible otherwise. I don't know. It makes no sense. It's why gender's silly. And then finally, we have biological determinism, similar to the race chapter, actually. And this is the belief that men and women behave differently due to differences in their biology, right? This has largely been discounted by science, but people keep trying to prove that it's true, right? So this is the idea that because your body is built a certain way, you're inherently more qualified to clean a house or bake a meal or whatever. It does not make sense. But you hear this a lot, right? You hear a lot from people saying, well, women are meant to be carers of the home. Men are meant to be out in the world and aggressive. So that's what we mean by biological determinism, that there's some sort of biological trait that is really impacting the ways in which we act. So that's the last section of all the keywords and concepts from this chapter. How about we watch a documentary?